Hello, my friends. We're going to talk today about a subject that I think a lot of people have a problem with, and many probably don't even realize they do. And it's about being true to yourself, but perhaps not in the way that you might think. We've heard a lot of stuff about being true to oneself and what that means. And usually it's in regards to doing what you love for a living, that sort of thing. But this has to do with giving yourself away to others based on a variety of different reasons. And I'm going to go over some of those and I'm going to share a little bit of my experience with that. And that's the reason I'm doing this video, because I feel like I've given myself away my whole life in regards to doing things for other people. Now, let me first give you a disclaimer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing things for others and helping others, especially your loved ones and friends and things like that. However, it depends on why we're doing it. And as I've looked back on my life, I realized that I have given myself away and done things for people when I really didn't want to, but in order to be a good person, I did it anyways. And so I've gone through this period where I don't want to do anything for anybody because I felt like I've given myself away and never gotten nothing in return for it in a lot of cases, not every case. And that's another thing too, is I don't want to people to think that you have to get something in return in order to do something good for somebody else. The point is to do things out of the goodness of your heart. And we're not always doing that, believe it or not. If you really have some introspection on yourself and why you do things for others, let's get into the variety of reasons. One of the reasons is that we feel obligated by our culture, either a family culture or our larger societal culture, that in order to be a good person, we should be helping other people as much as we can. Now, that's not, like I said, necessarily a bad thing, but we don't always do it for the right reasons, I guess. So in order to be authentic, you have to do it for the right reasons. And what are those reasons? Okay. Well, the right reason is, like I said before, you have to do it out of the goodness of your heart because you want to help somebody and they need the help. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we often do it because we feel like we're obligated to do it. Oh, they're family, or if I want to be a good Christian or a good religious person from whatever religion, I want to show God that I'm a good person by helping the poor and helping, all those things are good things. But if it's the wrong motivation, it hamstrings us spiritually, so to speak. Okay. Now, I've looked back on my life and seen that I've done that for the most part in my life. Now, I'm not saying that it's either one or the other. Most of the times that I've helped people is because I wanted to help and I wanted to be a good person. But I often did it when I didn't have the time or sometimes the expertise, that kind of thing. Another important point is it's okay to say no. And sometimes that causes a lot of uncomfortableness. And that's another reason why we do it. We don't want to have the uncomfortableness of telling somebody no, or worst case, causing a contention or a strife between the two of you, especially if it's a loved one or a family member, and possibly ruining a relationship because of that. And people come to expect things of you. Now, we all know people who take advantage of that. And some people probably take advantage and not realize they're taking advantage of it. They just expect it because that's what you do in this family or in this group of people or in this religion, that sort of thing. So what's the point of me talking about this? People are going to do what they're going to do. People are going to continue to give themselves away. And then let's go to the extreme and somebody in an abusive relationship where they still love the person, but they give themselves completely away because they're afraid they're going to get abused, either, verbally or mentally or physically, even in some cases. That's not a good thing. That's where it can lead to. So there's varying degrees of giving yourself away and not being your authentic self. So I think that it's important to try to find the balance there. There's a balance there. Okay. So what happens is when you discover this and when you get tired of it and you go, I'm not doing anything for anybody anymore because I've done all these things, and when I need something, nobody does anything for me. Yeah, and that's probably usually not entirely true, um, but it can be weighted one way or the other. So people probably do things for you, but still, but it might not be the person that you do. And when we have those expectations, well, I'll do this, but I'm going to expect something in return for it. So how about if somebody needs some help in the family or whatever, we lay it out for them. It's like, can you pay me to do this for you? You know, and maybe give them a family discount. That's still oftentimes out of obligation. I've had a recent incident, I guess, with family, not involving me, but with others in the family who were trying to help out the other, and there was actually a payment agreed, but there wasn't never a price, and so on. And then when the price came, oh, it was too high, and I think there was some expectations of a huge discount because we're family, that kind of thing, and all of that was left unspoken, and so it's damaged the relationship. And that's what made me think about it partially. And I've thought about it, and lately I've been thinking about it on and off. And part of that I think is just getting older. As you get older, you care less what people think. At least most people do. Although some people go through their whole life feeling like they are obligated to give of themselves when they're not, and others take advantage of that. So the point is, again, to find that balance. When you go to the other extreme where you're not going to do anything for anybody, then you kind of come back to center at some point and go, but now you're doing it for the right reasons. Okay, they need the help and I want to help them, because it's the right thing to do and I don't expect anything in return. And if I get something in return, that's just considered a bonus. So that's the important part, I think, of this, is to find the center. There's always a balance. It's not one way or the other. It's not like I'm not doing anything for anybody or I do everything for everybody. You always got to try and find that balance. And different people are going to have different perception or perspective on what that balance is. Some people are more inclined to be more helpful, and some people are too helpful, where you ever have that person that wants to help and everything, and it's like, no, just get out of my face and leave me alone. So the person has good intentions, and usually you don't say that, and oftentimes you give yourself away, allowing them to do things that you don't want them to do for you. you know and sometimes it can be a problem because they're not very good at what they do. There's a whole gamut or an array of situations that this can apply to. So it comes down to, you have to look within yourself and look back on your past and see what your motivation was for helping people. I can remember helping people and realizing now, as I look back on it, that I was just trying to show that I was a good person. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention this. Sometimes you're trying to prove to yourself that you're a good person. You know, Usually it's a combination of that and maybe those around you that see what's going on. Yeah, I'm going to prove to myself and to them that I'm this good person, that I'm this good Christian, that I'm this good religious person or whatever. And of course you don't consciously say that to yourself. It's kind of maybe there's a line between conscious and subconscious. You might say do it consciously, but it's mostly subconscious. And it's part of what was programmed into us as kids. Well, good people help other people. And yeah, that's true. Good people do help other people. And like I said, nothing wrong with helping other people. But evaluate your motivation, look within, and give yourself permission to say no when you really don't want to do something. I've done that countless times where I didn't want to do something, but I did it out of obligation. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got to do this. I wish I wouldn't have promised them that I would do that. Many, many times. for me. And like I said, it can go all the way to abuse, to doing it to someone who's abusive to you, especially if it's a spouse, because you feel obligated because they're family, and sometimes you're trying to love them into being a better person. And sometimes that works, but most of the time, often not. They have to come to a crisis. So be true to yourself, be authentic. It's okay to say no sometimes. You can do it as gently as possible. Some people might get upset. That's okay. Learn to be comfortable with that, or learn to be okay with being uncomfortable when that happens. Anyways, my friends, I think we'll leave it at that, and I hope you guys have a great day. All right. Peace out, my friends.